Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a special edition of Trekking Across the Universe here on the NDB Media Network. Of course, I'm your host, and I'll make it quick. I know you guys don't want to hear me. We want to get to the man in a moment, but it is my privilege to talk about him very quickly. Of course, you know him as Michael Jan Friedman, and for those of you that remember on Blog Talk Radio, it was just Mike Friedman. He's been on the program many times. We won't get into a lot of those episodes, but we have a man for all seasons right now, ladies and gentlemen. If you check him out on his website, which is probably the most important thing you may want to go to right now, and you can tell when I start looking away because I'm looking for something, and there it is. Check out his website, michaeljanfriedman.net, the writer on the run. Ladies and gentlemen, I know he's written more than 70 books, but this is what he has. He's written, of course, Star Trek The Next Generation. He's written for Aliens, Predator, Wolfman, Lois and Clark, DC Superhero. And yes, I'm reading his website. And many other things, of course. Comic books. And he's one of, I believe, either 3 or 4 writers of the Star Trek books, the universe, that also have writer's credit. And we'll make that a trivia question. I don't know the answer, but I believe there's about 3 or 4. Michael probably knows them, but I'm not going to put him on the spot. But he's done many things over the years. Prolific writer, New York Times bestseller. I'm sure he's been on a few other lists that I didn't do the research on, and he'll educate me on. So we'll show it off right now. But I want to show you just a few of the items that he's done. Some of the books. You know what? Anyway, that's Shadows of the Sun. Also, one of the original series books, TOS, one of the 58 Faces of Fire. This was a non-comic book, Predator, Flesh and Blood. I'm not sure if I mentioned Predator, but it's right there. A instant classic crossover. I don't have the image for it, but he also did the book version of the Star Trek episode Reunion. And, of course, he kicked off the Stargazer series, probably one of the more famous books. Actually, all his books are famous, so for me to say that's kind of ridiculous. He got the chance to the All Good Things book one as well. And if we get a chance, there are a few questions I want to ask him about All Good Things a little bit later, but I wanted to show off because I can. Over the years, I've collected the books. Of course, The Lives of Dax. Michael has been. How many multi-author projects have you been involved in? We talked about this last time, where you were in one of the first TNG novels that had 4 writers.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah, which I think was a first.
Yeah, you're talking about novels. If we're talking about novels, multi-author projects, I did 3. We're not talking about anthologies like Lives of Dax, but novels where more than one writer contributed. That would be one I did with called Doomsday World. It was a Next Generation book with Peter David, Bob Greenberger, and Carmen Carter. Subsequently, I did Wrath of the Prophets with Peter and Bob again. And we also did The Disinherited, which was an original series book. Peter and Bob and I did that. So yeah, some multi-author projects, which were great. I mean, those guys are my pals, so it was a lot of fun.
As a matter of fact, Crazy 8 Press, correct?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Very briefly, you want to remind the audience, which they know,
but
Crazy 8 Press.
Crazy 8 Press is the writers consortium that I founded along with some other writers back in 2010. Amazingly enough, it's been around for 12 years. It's crazy. That's the crazy part, right? And there's actually 10 of us there in Crazy 8, and what we do is um, we take stories that traditional publishers would not take, um, at, and we these are our most genuine, authentic visions, and we publish them as a group. So, for instance, I'll give you an example. I happen to have an example right here. This is Aslan, which is, and down here it says the Mashla Kalua mysteries. This is about we'll say, a gumshoe detective in the context of a 21st century Aztec empire. And I just finished the sequel. It'll be out in about 6 weeks, I would say. Um, the sequel is Aslan, investigator for the Empire, and this is a book that that I took to a traditional publisher or two, and the response I got was, I love this idea. This is a great idea, but I can't publish this idea. Can you imagine me taking this to a bookstore buyer and saying, yeah, it's a 21st century Aztec Empire noir murder mystery? Their heads would explode. So that wasn't going to go the traditional route. So at Crazy Eight, we don't need to have that approval process. And if you feel strongly about something, you do it. So I was able to do that. Peter had a vampire story, and it was about a guy whose mother, I believe, is a vampire hunter, and he turns out to be a vampire. It's called Raising Stakes. Peter took this to a traditional publisher, and the traditional publisher said, first of all, you're not a woman; you have to be a female author. And secondly, your protagonist is a male, and that's not good. And they went down the list of all the reasons that they couldn't publish it. So he just published it with Crazy Eight. And so that's the type of thing we do. Stories that traditional publishers might shy away from or think, they're not going to sell 100,000 copies. We don't have to sell 100,000 copies. Our margins are 10 times what they would be in a traditional publishing setup. So we don't have to sell that many books to be profitable.
That is a wonderful segue into what you are doing now.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to put a link in the video right there. I'm sure Michael will give us an easy way of getting there, but we're going to talk about his Kickstarter project. I'm going to just, do what I do best and blab for a bit. But those are the links. Maybe here it's a little bit more. That link does work, and it is Phenomenon's Season of Darkness. This is the second volume in a shared world superhero anthology series. Mm-hmm. And folks, it's a Kickstarter program. It is not 30 days, and Michael will repeat himself again, maybe as to why, because we spoke about this briefly. But the series Phenomenons, the story is right here on the page. I want to take a few words, and I apologize, Michael, I cut you off. But basically, it says every world needs heroes, and an alternate reality in which society's been buried under a crushing financial crisis. Alternate reality? Anyway, such a world.
Right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, these heroes more than most. Such a world. Some may remind us of ancient archetypes we still hold in awe. Others will be utterly fresh and quirky. All under the expert hands of our caring and experienced writers will be people will grow to care about. Of course, I am reading Michael's words. So when I say we, they are Michael's words. But Michael, our publishers, in your words.
Okay. Well, I love superheroes. I've always loved superheroes for as long as I can. As long as I've been able to read, I've been reading superheroes. And I remember reading comics in my backyard with my parents, who unlike a lot of parents, actually encouraged me to read comics. They would buy me comics and share their memories of comic book characters with me, golden age characters, and so I always loved that. And when I started reading prose, um, I gravitated towards science fiction and fantasy, but occasionally you would see uh, a novel um, with comic book characters in it. I remember something a long time ago. It was an Avengers novel called "The Avengers Battle the Earthwrecker." And while it wasn't a spectacular story, it was actually very exciting because I got to read about the Avengers in prose. I thought that was incredible. Then there was another one, Captain America in the Great Gold Steel, I want to say. So these were amazing things because when you read about a superhero in prose, it gives you a whole new depth of insight, and it's exciting because of that. So I've written over the years. I've written some superhero novels and superhero short stories, and I was thinking in Crazy Eight we do whatever we're passionate about, and I was passionate about superheroes. And my initial my initial inclination was to think about, well, I'll come up with a universe and play around in it all by myself. And then I said, I don't think so. I think it'll be better. I think it'll be a better read um, if I get all my Crazy Eight colleagues involved, and also some of the other writers that I've worked with in the past on other projects, and uh, writers who I respect as writers and also as people, frankly. So it's a lot of fun. Writing is it's a usually a very solitary existence, and this was also a way to make it a lot less solitary. So I invited all my friends in. There's like 16 of us in volume two, and we each have a character that we're shepherding through the narrative. It's not a braided novel. It's not, we're not writing chapters. We're each writing short stories, and um, everybody's passionate about it because everybody's doing the thing they want to do. We have a range of characters. The one that you see above here, the one who looks sort of like an angel, that's a cape. Um, although, can the readers, can the viewers see that correct?
Yeah.
Okay,
As a matter of fact, I was trying to adjust it. I will right now. Let me do it as an overlay, and we'll get it. There it is.
okay. So the one on the left is Penny Trouble, and she can penetrate things. She can melt through things. The one on the right is Syntax, and she has a power that has to do with the spoken word. And then the one in the middle is somebody I'm very proud of. It's Better Angel. Lincoln talked about our better angels, and I was amazed that nobody has come up with a character named Better Angel. And so there she is, and she's sort of a Supergirl type character, and probably the most powerful character in this million. Um, but we have a whole bunch of characters. Some of them are on the face of it close to the standard heroes that you've seen before. Like we have a super speedster, and his name is Torque, by Paul Kupperberg. And Torque has the powers of the super speedster, which we're all very familiar with, but he's a very different character than anyone that you've read about, probably in comics in general, and certainly in the super speedster category. So this is a speedster, the likes of which we've never seen before. And then we have characters that are just completely off the wall that you've never seen anything like before. And one of them is called Lipstick Lily. Lipstick Lily she operates in Cleveland, like the author Marie Bear that writes her, and Lipstick Lily um, has an array with a bandolier, and she has an array of specialty lipsticks. And the closest thing I can come to this is like Green Arrow with his specialty arrows, and she's got specialty lipsticks. And you would be amazed at the ingenuity that Marie puts into this character um, to make her a legitimate superhero, crime fighter with lipstick. So you have to say, I was a little skeptical when she first told me about the character, but I knew she was a good writer and she'd pull it off somehow, and she did. She really did. Um, and so we have an array of characters. Dan Hernandez, who co-wrote the Adams Family 2 movie and co-wrote the Pikachu Detective movie, he's a regular contributor to these books, and his characters are Colossa and Particula, and these are sisters, and one has the power to grow very big, and the other one has the power to grow very small. Um, and we've seen these powers before, but not in this way. It's the real force behind these stories is the relationship between the sisters, which is very much expressed physically, if expressed on the physical plane by their size, but it resonates with their relationship, and that's what's really interesting for me about it. So we have, what could I say? We have Peter Davids writing Professor Paracelsus, who 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 has the philosopher's stone embedded in his hand and can therefore practice alchemy. And he's a very interesting character. He's not necessarily what you think he is. We have let's see, a character named Sarcastic Fringehead, which apparently is the name of a fish, and it's written by Mary Fan, and this is a character who draws I would say, very heavily on Mary's personal experiences, and is therefore very interesting. And she has the power over salt, and it's ingenious the ways that Mary applies that power to the things that sarcastic fringehead wants to accomplish. So we have an incredibly interesting and varied array of characters, and they all kind of come together in these books. We kickstarted the first volume about a year ago, and that was Phenomenon's Every Human Creature. And then this is the second volume, which we're kickstarting now, and of course we have to hit our goal of $8,500. We're not quite halfway there. I guess we're about 35% of the way there. And in order to put this book out, we need to hit that number. The way Kickstarter works is if you fall $1 short of your number, you get nothing. So we're working hard to hit that point.
Wow. And of course, that's why we're here, having an opportunity to talk about it. As a matter of fact, you mentioned several of the authors, and I'm going to butcher some of them, so I ask their forgiveness. Michael will correct me, but I believe it's Ilsa J. Bick, Michael A. Burstein, Russ.
Colchamiro.
Thank you. Peter David. No, Peter David.
That one I can't help you with.
Yeah, and then the one that I butchered on air, and he was in New York as well, Keith R.A. DeCandido.
Yeah, DeCandido.
Yeah, I think I said DeCandido.
Well, that's very common. People often do that. So
yeah, well, I was very common that day, and of course, Mary Fan, Robert Greenberger, Glenn Hellman, Dan Hernandez, Paul Kupperberg, Aaron Rosenberg, Hildy Silverman, Jeffrey Thorne, Marie Viber, you said,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I would have said V-Bert, and I apologize, Marie.
Oh, I haven't actually asked her. I just think it's detailed.
Oh, hey, that's all cool. Hey, look, you know what? We already received a like. Sorry about that, Michael. Jacob Hayes, thank you, Jacob. Everyone else, folks, everyone else who's listening, let us and watching. Actually, I Blog Talk Radio days. For everyone watching, let us know who you are, where you hail from. Michael is out in the Big Apple. He's out in New York.
Just outside the Big Apple.
Oh, just outside, yes. And of course, I'm on the opposite side, of course, way behind everyone out here in Southern California. So this is real cool. Of course, it's already 9:20 p.m. over where he's at 6:21. So what kind of a day were you looking at today, Mike? Was it warm, hot, cold?
It was a nice day. It was probably about 65 and mostly sunny. I spent 10 o'clock to 11:30 playing pickleball.
Oh, wow.
So that was fun, and I spent the rest of the day writing, which was also fun. So it was a pretty good day. And then after dinner, we watched an episode of Ozark, which I'm gonna have to stop watching at night. It just keeps me up. It's like that happened. Oh my god! It's kind of suspenseful and bloody and all that.
Yeah, I understand. Ozark is real. It's worth watching. I haven't had a chance. I'm actually returning to the line of the living because I'm busy from January through April, and I don't want to bore my audience. They know. But I do want to thank Tony Kanopka, also received a like. Folks, we have quite a few people watching us on YouTube, on our Twitch channel, on our Facebook NDB Media page, my private page, and my public page as well. Folks, let us know who you are, where you hail from. If you do leave a comment on my personal page, we won't be able to receive it here. So we invite everyone to come on over to facebook.com/NDB Media. That's where all of our programs are. And we'll see your comments in the chat room. If you have any questions for Michael, write in the chat room, or who knows, maybe if you want to join us, maybe we'll be able to swing it and have you join us and ask the question live. But we are talking about Phenomenon's Season of Darkness.
Right.
And as Michael just mentioned, this is now an anthology, which I guess he's going to educate me on air because I had a rough idea what an anthology was, but I took this as being a regular novel, and Michael so eloquently and humanely said, "Yeah, you got it wrong, Raj." So he'll explain that in a moment.
That's Lives of Dax is a terrific collection, edited by Marco Ranieri,
Yes.
and it's great. But it's a series of short stories.
Yeah.
And what ties it together is they're all about incarnations of Dax. So it has that theme, but it's beautiful. It's a wonderful collection. It's not I guess you could say it's a shared world, but it's not a shared world that the writers created. We're all in the Lives of Dax. We're all playing in the Star Trek playbook. In Phenomenons, in the Phenomenon series, we are basically piecing it together. And I set up the premise as the editor and kind of the lead of the project. I set up the parameters, but really the individual writers wrote their characters, created their characters, and are having fun interacting. We're constantly guest starring in our characters are guest starring in each other's stories, which was fun, and that was something I wanted to encourage. That was one of the things that I found very appealing about the early Marvel universe, was that characters were constantly clashing and collaborating and showing up in each other's stories. Sometimes it was just in the background, the torch kind of flying across the sky in the background. It gave the impression that this was a coherent and accessible world, and so I encourage that as well in phenomena. And before anybody asks, phenomenons is an actual word. Although if it wasn't, I would that wouldn't stop me. But phenomena, when it's something that happens, when it's a process or something that happens, it's plural is phenomena. But you have the option when it's people you're talking about of saying phenomenon, and that's the one I prefer for this series. Partly because people go, "Wait, isn't it phenomena?" Um, so there's that, and the individual titles for the books are from Dickens. So every human creature is a phrase from Dickens. Um, Season of Darkness is a phrase from Dickens, and I guess Dickens was prolific, so I don't think we'll ever run out of titles for our phenomenon books.
Now, knowing that it's from you, I accepted phenomenons without question. I was like, oh. And that's a word that I've not spent time on. I accepted it, and that's cool to know, Mike. I do appreciate it. Oh, Mike, I'm sorry. It's taking me years to be able to address you as Mike. For many
Oh,
years, it was always Mr. Friedman, right? It
oh,
was.
yeah, yeah. That
And,
makes
after what 10 years, I finally crossed that line. Ugh, it feels odd. But I do want to give a quick shout out also, Richard Sullivan. Thank you for the like. And if I had the power, Mike, I would do this all the time. A lot of people did come over to the NDB media page. Wow. They actually listen, but it's all good. Folks, once again, if you're watching the program live, let us know who you are and where you hail from. It's kind of nice to know. Michael is in the Northeast. I'm in the Southwest. And kind of cool to share some of the love and misery on a Tuesday night. Today is May 24th, 2022. What a wonderful day. We're already into the program. I should say the Kickstarter program. And this did surprise me. And Michael had, because he's done a few of these in the past, he had some wonderful insight because he spoke to me last week while I was on a program and we confirmed the appointment, which was really cool. I was doing sports talk with the guys, and it was really neat. He sent me the message saying ready to go, and I was under the impression that the Kickstarter campaign began that day or the day before and would run 30, 60, 90 days. That was just standard, but apparently it's not, Michael.
yeah. All the action is really in the first few days and the last few days, and it's it's sort of like watching paint dry in the middle. Um, and 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 I have a middle because you want to include everybody at the time that they are prepared to be included. So I have that, but I don't do 30 days anymore. I do 24, and I'm thinking about even cutting that down because it's an effort for me, and I'm not sure how often somebody, especially somebody who's already contributed, who's already backed the Kickstarter, I'm not sure how many times they need to see my promotional information, on their pages, day after day after day after day. I'll probably cut it down to 18 next time. Provided that we actually fund, because it's never a guarantee, ever. We've come so close that we've funded in the last 10 minutes sometimes.
Wow.
Other times a little more leeway, but you never know. There's no guarantee, and that's what makes Kickstarter an exciting vehicle. Is that you don't really know. There are other crowdfunding mechanisms which uh, whatever you gather, you gather, and whatever you get, you get. But with Kickstarter, you get nothing if you don't make your mark. So very important to hit that objective.
And folks, now maybe switching gears a little bit, talking about the nitty gritty. If you do donate, there are benefits.
Oh yeah.
Let's consider this not necessarily friends with benefits, but well, maybe as far as novels are concerned.
I guess if we're, we don't have Mila Kunis on board, but we do have,
Oh, very good.
but we do. There are benefits in a broader sense. We, at a certain level, you get the ebook. That's $9. If you spend a little more, you get the hard copy, the trade paperback of the collection. If you go a little further, you can be listed among the patrons on the acknowledgments page. You can also get your name in there. You can be briefly or extensively a character in these stories. Um, you can get your likeness in there. If you want, you can send us a pic. At the appropriate level of support, you send us a picture, and one of our artists, one of our really good comic book trained likeness artists, um, includes you in a black and white illustration of that story. In every copy of the book, there you are. There's your face, or it could be the face of somebody you love. It's a great gift. It's a great gift. Um, and then you can also at a higher level you can also dedicate the book. So there's all kinds of ways to get involved, and you can buy an ebook of something. Uh, you can buy a hard copy of a book, but you can't go to the bookstore and say, "I'd like to be in the book." Is that all right? Can I just be in the book? And when it comes to these crowdfunding efforts, you can be in the book in all these different ways. In fact, um, this is not an option in this book, but in other Kickstarter projects, I've I've enabled backers to be on the cover of the book. Um, I've actually done that. Do I have a quick example close to hand? I'm not sure. Okay, but anyway, uh, you know, it's funny to see backers' faces on on your characters on the cover.
That is so cool. I mean, it's going to be there forever, basically.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
for those of us that are frustrated writers, which are the wannabe writers, and the ones that just dream of doing what you do, this is our chance to actually be there. And with the names in this project, I mean, come on, give me a break. We've just mentioned a few. Well, actually, we did mention them all from the prior one. Did they all return, or
No, a couple of writers did.
okay?
But we got at least one new one. One of our new writers is Alex Segura.
Oh, cool.
Alex is a great mystery and suspense novelist, and he has a very hot property going on now, and it's a uh, um, superhero inspired mystery novel. Okay, which hang on a second, I want to make sure I get the name right. So he doesn't get upset with me.
Right. And
Um,
while he does that, folks, I'm just going to mention, as Michael said, there's a simple pledge. If you want to help out the project, it's $10. Pledge $9 or more, and you get the ebook, which is really cool. And the ebooks of both anthologies, if you pledge $16 or more. So you, you can always give to the project in many different ways, and it helps them to continue. Look, folks, I'm a reader.
by the
I've
way,
read my entire life. Oh, you got it.
yeah, yeah. What I did.
Go for it.
What it was. Alex is a terrific writer, and he did a great job on this book, and he's getting recognition. So I'm happy to see that.
No, that is really cool.
And he's writing a
Now,
character for us. La Sombra
oh,
is his Latina character in um, our shared world. It's interesting, I didn't tell any writer in our stable to be diverse in the way the kind of characters that they came up with, but just naturally, it's I would say straight white males are at a premium in this anthology. There's a lot of diversity, and again, we didn't say let's be diverse. It just happened naturally because that's what the writers wanted to do. I mean, we're all sensitive to the reader who grew up not seeing anybody in the comics who was like them, and so individually we individually respond to
now, Michael, I have to ask.
that.
Uh, Tuckerization. This is a premium level item on it.
Yeah.
Tuckerization. That doesn't have anything to do with the Enterprise character, does it?
No, 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 no.
Okay. Please
Tucker,
enlighten us.
Tucker was an author. I forget the whole story, but um, he would put friends and acquaintances in his books by name. And so when we Tuckerize you, what we do is we
Yeah.
take your name and we make you a character in the book, a full-fledged character. So you have some dialogue maybe, or you have some actions in there. It's not just, I mean, we also have a category where you get a one-time mention, and that's where, we name a street after you, or a guy who looks up and says, "Oh," and that's, and he has your name. But when you're Tuckerized, you become a full fledged character. Sometimes you become a full fledged character that's ongoing. There are some of the characters that are going to just keep showing up in these books because they were Tuckerized in the first volume. And it's fun. It's fun. Even before we did these anthologies, we would go to conventions, and for charity, we would Tuckerize the highest bidder, and that was always fun. We would, somebody would, did a couple $100 and wind up in one of my Star Trek books, getting thrown into space or dying in some other exotic and horrific way.
I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying this, but it's not bad, but it's just the name. For those of us that grew up, I'm a tad younger than Michael, just a tad, but I grew up in the 70s, the scholastic book clubs in school. And my mom, fortunately, whenever I received that little booklet, I always, it's not that I had an unlimited, but if I wanted something, I got it. And one of the first things I ever read was the Choose Your Own Adventure Third Planet from Altair. And
Uh-huh.
what was really cool about that is, as you know, you get to be in the story. And
Right.
there's numerous paths you can take, whatever. But when you talk about Tuckerization and the others where you just mention them, friend, family, or whatever, I mean, this is, again, this Roman again trouble. This is, this is choose your own adventure on steroids because you're actually in the story,
Right.
like choose your own adventure used to say.
Mm-hmm.
You're the star of the story. Not the story here, but you're in it, which is really cool.
You could be the star. You might actually be the star. Um, but
Think about
yeah, yeah, it's fun. It's fun to actually be in the story. And I've been Tuckerized, and I can tell you, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. You feel included, and you feel like you know when I write a book, I try to put the reader in the in the skin of the character as much as possible. And that's sometimes that's that goes down to point of view. I like writing first person point of view, for instance. I'll even occasionally write second person point of view, which is a little difficult, but do that. Um, and I like saying I this and I this and I this. And what I do is I liken this to a roller coaster. You know, if you're using third person, or particularly if you're using omniscient narrator, what you're doing is you're standing on the ground and you're looking at this roller coaster, and it's kind of exciting. It's compelling because it's a roller coaster and it's doing all kinds of things. But imagine how much more exciting it is when you're in the roller coaster. When you're talking about when you're getting into the head of the character, and just that character, and everything that takes place in the narrative is through the eyes of that character. That's so much more exciting. Now you're sitting in the roller coaster, and when I teach writing classes or advise young writers, I always tell them, as much as possible, put the reader in that roller coaster. So, and Tuckerizations do that.
Oh. A writer on the run, Michael Jan Friedman. I mean, that's perfect right there. Michael, I want to, obviously, I do want to talk about the project, but before I forget, because I'm getting older and dumber, a little bit of backstory. You did the version, a novel by Michael Jan Friedman, based on All Good Themes, written by Ronald D. Moore and Brandon Braga. Of course, this was the seminal finale. The
Right. Right.
what they what an adventure! The last episode. There was, and I read about this, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but when you talked about putting the writer in, I want to go to you in your involvement. You've
Mhm.
spoken to us briefly about having to do these incredibly short timelines, etc. And I want to bring in one of our co-hosts from another program, Richard. He's going to be joining us. Hey, Richard.
Hey, how you doing?
Thanks for joining us, Richard.
Uh,
I wanted he's in Ohio, by the way, but he'll tell us that in a moment. But the thing that I heard in All Good Themes was, as we know, there's like three storylines in the episode. I understand that there was supposedly a fourth storyline that even Patrick Stewart was unhappy about, that they had to get rid of. And just on that very little bit I've given to you, did you already have the finished product as well as can be, or did you know of that other storylines that were eventually written out of the episode?
When I got this script, it was not the finished script because I wouldn't have had time to get what I needed to get to the publisher. But it didn't have a. I don't recall a fourth part. So so what I got was after that had been taken out already. But it wasn't the finished product, which is very, it's a little elusive. Here's a script. It's not the finished script, and but go ahead and write it. And by the way, take all of 2 weeks.
Wow.
That's it. That was a very tight schedule, but it was great as well. I mean, I had a lot of freedom to tie up loose ends with Wesley and so on. So it was fun.
Yes. And the novel, by the way, does match the episode as well as can be. I mean, there are subtle things, of course, because they change things on the fly, they being the production. So not everything is there. But I do hear myself on echo. So I don't know who that is. I do apologize.
that's
So
me.
is that okay,
Yep.
Richard?
I will
It's
go take. I will go take care of that.
okay if you would. Um, oh yeah, there it is. Okay. I just want to get to that before I forgot that because it's something that I've known about for a long time. And just FYI, Patrick Stewart, or the fourth timeline was it was going to be Wolf 3, not Wolf 359, but the best of both worlds.
Mm-hmm.
They were also going to visit that spot.
Right.
And again, it was unreal because some of the cast, especially Patrick Stewart, said, "Why are you getting rid of this?" But it was due to the complexity of the script. But
Yeah, it was already
oh yeah,
complex for the viewer. I guess for the reader as well, but it was already very complex for the viewer. And while some viewers, I'm sure, would have been fine with it, I don't think every viewer would have understood it completely.
yeah.
It was a demanding. It was a script that demanded a lot from the viewer.
And wow, what a way to go! Wow, that was a wonderful story with Q and stuff like that. But it's there for you to watch, folks. The book is available, the hardback, of course, and the paperback. You can get it on Kindle, and you can order directly from Michael Jen Freeman's website. I have the Kickstarter link right there, but just very quickly back to his website. Buy it there, and everything that he's done is right there. But I just wanted to get to that one right now. But I wanted to get back to the project. Richard, thank you for joining us, buddy. How you doing, young man? It's been a little bit.
Yeah, I know, but I'm doing okay.
I'm glad. I'm glad you're with us. And you know what, Michael? We might be blocking you out a little bit. And I apologize, but this way I have the Kickstarter link and your website. Is that cool?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, I see. I see. No, that's great. That's great. I'd rather have that up than me, frankly. So,
Yeah, it's not gonna. No, you got to be here.
Richard, where in Ohio are you coming from?
I'm in Central.
Central, but so you're not particularly near Cleveland.
Near enough. Well, I guess I'm in the middle between Columbus and Cleveland. They both take about the same time to get to, which is about an hour and a half.
Oh, that's
So
nothing. An hour and a half. Takes me an
yeah,
hour and a half to get into Manhattan. Come on, on a good day. But
well,
Cleveland, I was telling Roger that one of our writers in our shared world anthology is from Cleveland and sets her stories for us with her character Lipstick Lily in Cleveland, which she refers to as the land.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's on the Cavs jersey too. So
Right.
it is. I guess it is common. I don't know how long it's, but yeah, even though the land of what I don't know, but
Well, the land of Cleve, I
yeah.
guess.
Well, I don't know, the land of the burning river, I guess. But
Right,
that's
right.
that's a long time ago. I don't know if anybody remembers
Uh,
that, but
Cuyahoga, is it?
yeah, the Cuyahoga River caught on fire. What was that? Late 60s, early 70s when that happened. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
Early
Uh,
70s.
yeah,
Very
I
much
heard. I had my cell phone on. And I heard about you talking about the lipstick. So I heard that part. So that sounded pretty interesting. You know, like I guess you said that she found a way to use them in an interesting way. So I guess
yeah.
anything could be a weapon if you know how to handle it.
I wouldn't have thought so, but
Well, no.
Marie's made a believer out of me, and we've got other great characters. We have Black Hat, who takes advantage of all this interesting technology, but I can't tell you where it comes from.
I'm
And
the black cat. I'm the black cat. See?
coincidentally, you have a Black Hat.
Yeah, I did.
And then there's we have Luminosity, which is Keith DeCandido's character, and she manipulates light, and she's the hero of the Bronx. And who else? We have, let me think, we have a Rascal, who's Jeff Thorne's character. Jeff, you might know Jeff because from the Green Lantern comics. He's writing Green Lantern these days. And also, he's been a producer of a writer and producer of TV shows like The Librarians, like Ben 10, and Jeff's a great writer and a good guy. And his character is Rascal, who's also compelling in his way. Um, we have Ilsa Bick has a crew of sentient animals, and she writes them as only she can. You have to read them to see what I mean. You believe that an animal can speak, or think anyway, or speak to each other animals. And let's see. So we have Glenn Howman has a character named Null, who's basically the the guy who knows everything, who you'll never see, never meet, but he's the guy he's the sort of the demon in the machine. And we talked about Peter, Bob Greenberger. Bob Greenberger basically has the Shield Man from Uncle kind of organization in our shared world anthology called CED, and so he writes that. And who am I leaving out? We already.
What was that organization called again? ED?
CED. It's
CED. Okay.
CED.
I didn't hear it as C. I was thinking ED. Couldn't that be fixed with
no,
a blue pill? I'm
no.
sorry. I didn't hear the first letter. That's my bad.
Yeah. Or maybe I didn't say it.
All I heard was ED, and if you knew how my brain worked, that's where it'd go.
ED would be
that'd be an interesting organization.
Go there? I don't think I should go there. Okay, but anyway, it's CED.
Okay.
And we talked about Paul's character Torque, and I think perhaps we've covered everybody. Although I'm sure. Oh, I know. Michael Bursi has a character named Red Sky, who's part Jewish and part African American, and his character is that he can chrono back, which means he can at any time he can go back 15 seconds into the past, but he can only do it on a limited basis. So he has to be very selective in which 15 seconds he chooses to go back to.
Have you ever seen Breaking Bad?
Have I seen Breaking Bad? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, I think. Gosh. Aaron Paul's character had a character like that. I think he went back 3 seconds. So, I mean, not to say they're similar, but he was showing his girlfriend a bunch of characters that he drew, and that was one of them.
Oh, is that right? Yeah. Oh, okay.
And he went back 3 seconds, and she was thinking, what's so big about that? But 15 might be more usable than 3.
Yeah, you can actually do something. 3, I guess, maybe what could you do? You could duck, maybe, right?
Well, all right. Well, 3 seconds. I mean, you'd have to hurry up, or you have to be right there to do it too. I mean, you don't have anyway. I just reminded of that character. So it was I've seen it over and over, so that's why I was remembering that. But anyway, continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll give credit to the Aaron Paul character. You have to, but think about how much better
Jesse Pinkman. That's it.
Yeah, just think about how much better our character is in that he goes back 15 seconds.
Yep.
It's a big difference.
You have to be on the spot too.
Right. So so we've got an impressive array of.
Didn't you mention Peter David?
We did mention Peter's character is Professor Paracelsus.
Oh yeah. I mean, I didn't know if you mentioned this. I heard you the first time, but since you were going over them again, I want to make sure you went through them again so people will be aware.
I know I'm forgetting someone. Wait, hang on one second.
Dan Hernandez.
Yeah, Dan. You mentioned Dan. Dan
did, yes. Wait, and his character's name is in Spanish, correct?
They're sisters. I'm off camera because
sisters.
There we are. Okay. So anyway, his characters are Colosa, which means big, and Particula, which means tiny. And they're sisters. So they're great. In the first volume, the older sister, her a villain has tampered with her growing mechanism, which is sort of an implant based on her father's technology, and she's growing uncontrollably, and she's trying to and her young and her sister Articulat is inside her, first on her, and then eventually inside her, shrinking and shrinking and shrinking to the point where she can keep her sister from expanding to the point where she dies. And her sister's kind of on a 50-foot woman rampage through Manhattan, uh, and her little sister is on her, trying to figure out a way to stop her from growing so much, and also stop her rampage through Manhattan.
Okay.
Yeah, that's some creativity. I think the other one, and I apologize, Mr. S, was I think Alex Segura had a character that the character's name is in Spanish.
Also in Spanish, La Sombra, which
La
means
Sombra.
yeah,
Yes.
the shadow. Right.
See, I wanted to jump up and say, "Hey, that's Shadow! I know that one." So that is cool. Now, one thing you tangentially mentioned that there are lots of things depending on how far the Kickstarter goes up, but I don't know if we were really specific about it. That there are several package offerings, and then there are stretch goals. Michael, would you
Right. Sure. Well,
stretch goals?
the packages are very cool and inexpensive. There,
Yeah.
you get each package gives you four um, book length works, either a novel or a series of short stories, um, by one of the authors represented in the anthology. So, for instance, one of my short story collections is in there, and then another anthology that we did, which was called Pangea, is also in there. So you get four full length ebooks. They're only ebooks, but for a good price, and you can add that on at any level. So those are fun and a good value. And then our stretch goals. Last in the first volume, we had a lot of stretch goals where we were adding author signatures, and we've done that in the past, and it's been fine. It's been great. I just lug all the boxes to a convention where I know I'll see some of the other authors, and we sign a bunch of books, up in my room. But we ran into trouble recently in the last two projects because of COVID. We haven't been attending conventions for a while, and so at one point at the height of the pandemic, I'm trucking 200 books up to Connecticut for Paul Kupperberg's signature, and out on the island to Peter David, and it was hard. And I didn't learn my lesson because I'm not that bright. So what I did is I did it again, and so our stretch goals in the first volume of Phenomenons were signatures. So now, even though I've had the book for like a couple of months already, I haven't been able to send them out because I don't have the required signatures, which I will get in July at a convention called Shore Leave in Baltimore, which is a great convention.
What kind of conventions do you do?
Typically, I do these two conventions in Baltimore. These are my cornerstone conventions. One's in February and one's in July. The July one is Shore Leave, and the February one is called Far Point. They're both wonderful conventions, and family oriented. They're warm. They're cozy, and predominantly Star Trek fans, but also fans of other science fiction media. And they have great media guests. In the past they've had Shatner and Nimoy and about any science fiction media personality name, as well as some others that are a little less prominent.
Have you ever thought of trying a comic book convention?
Oh,
Yeah, sure. I've been going to comic book conventions probably.
Well, you just mentioned 2 shows. I didn't know if you
Yeah,
hit
yeah,
that
yeah.
circuit too, because there's a convention in Baltimore too, I
Right.
believe. I don't know when, but
Um,
I mean, you would know better than I would about that
yeah,
area. But
I
I'm
haven't.
just saying, Ohio's open for business if you want to. I mean, we have them all summer long.
I did actually go to a show in Cleveland. Cleveland? No, actually, I think it was in Cincinnati actually. But
Oh,
I did go to a comic show a long time ago,
yeah.
and I'm perfectly willing if there's a Cleveland conventioneer out there. I'd be
Well,
perfectly
I
willing
know.
to go to an
Well,
Ohio convention.
well, the Akron Con, we have a couple of those. We have one. We have the Hall of Fame Con in Canton. That's all in the end of the fall and summer.
There you go.
And we have a huge one coming up at the end of July 31st. It's held in a big soccer plaza.
Rich, get them to invite me.
What's
Oh,
that?
Get them to invite me.
Okay, I will.
make it happen,
That's my new mission, Raj.
It's
sir. Yes, sir.
All
Yes.
right. All right, I'll beam down and see what I can find out. But
Rich.
Oh, had it happen.
I don't. I know it's asking a lot, but you know, I think if anyone can do it, it's you.
okay, I think that's okay. We'll go with that. Well, I do know these people. I mean, we used to cover them in our comic book show on YouTube, so I do know them. So
I
I
also,
could.
I've been to the big comic conventions in San Diego and the Javits Center in New York and Dallas and a couple times down there. And let's see, Terrificon in Connecticut. I've been there a couple times. So yeah, listen, I wrote almost 200 comic books. So, and in fact, I wrote recently, I wrote a graphic novel called Empty Space, which, hang on, I have a copy right here.
Ooh,
This is Empty Space,
yes.
and it's a kind of Star Trekky kind of story, but very different from Star Trek. A little more graphic and a little more macabre than the typical Star Trek story. But Empty Space is also available to backers of my Kickstarters, and the artwork's exceptional, and the story's not half bad either, if I can say so.
That's a good blurb.
but
Great art. The story's not that bad.
Yeah.
That's a good blurb. I like that.
The story, you won't hate the story. Is
Yeah.
my
Okay.
Yeah.
So, are each of these books separate, or did you mention something about short stories? So, I guess I'm a little behind. I don't want you to repeat yourself, but I'm just curious.
the anthology that we're talking about is an anthology. It's short stories. They're all in the same world. They all take place in the same world that we've concocted. So it's a shared world, but they're all short stories. They're connected, but not in a narrative sequence. They're not chapters in a book. But although I suppose you could read them that way. And so in the project we're talking about, the one we're kickstarting, it's short story, a collection of short stories.
Okay.
It's the second in a series.
All right.
I'll show you the. You'll give me 1 second. I'll show you the cover of the first one.
Of course, I'd be a jerk. This
Yeah.
is what I do. Six,
Yeah. So
seven.
this is Phenomenon's Every Human Creature. It's the first.
Let me give you a bigger view on that, Mike. Yeah, there it is.
There we go.
Yeah. Let me remove that banner as well. Oh, smooth. Way to go, Raj. Not that one. There we go. Look at that. That is sweet.
This is Phenomenon's Every Human Creature, and you can see Grey Guardsman. Oh, I didn't mention Grey Guardsman, but he's a pivotal character. That's one of the ones that I wrote. I didn't
Okay.
mention him because I forgot me. But there you go. So
Do
it takes place mostly in New York, but again, it's a different New York. It's one that never climbed out of the.
so do those short stories connect to one
Well,
big ending, or is it just separate stories?
they're separate stories that you read in sequence, and they don't simulate a novel, but they all take place in a chronological order, in this milieu, in the
Okay.
same world.
All right.
I've tried to do the kind of braided novel thing, and it's very difficult, and it's kind of a burden on the writers. It's hard.
Right.
It's hard. It's sort of like, I mean, you can do that. Actually, not Kickstarter, Amazon has a thing called Vella, Amazon Vella, where they're encouraging people to write books that way, to write chapters in a book as if you were on the staff of a TV show and writing, episodes one right after the other. So that's another thing, but it's hard. It's harder. It requires more effort and more coordination. And I think the writers are happier when they can write.
Exactly. They can be. There's no restrictions and nothing to follow. They can just take their character and just go warp speed with it. Yeah.
Right. I mean, we have some parameters that we impose, but I try to give them as much freedom as possible because it's just write better when they're free. So and that's better for everybody.
Are your books available on Amazon or just through the website?
Yeah. No, they're available on Amazon. Well, I I wrote probably 60 books um, for Star Trek publishing program and other licensed programs, and those are available. Some of them are in print, some of them are not. Many of them are available in ebook form for sure. And then there's the books that I wrote since I helped start Crazy Eight Press, and those are all available in trade paperback and also in ebook through Amazon and also through Barnes and Noble.
Okay. Any questions, Roger? I kind of hijacked you.
Not at all.
I
No,
didn't mean
Richard.
to.
I think not at all. I thank you for joining. Look, better two souls asking questions as opposed to me boring Michael as I have for 10 years. Having different
You're
flavor
not.
helps.
You've never bored me.
You're very kind. Well, you have returned numerous times, so
Yeah.
I will say that.
Well,
But
we're used to it.
I don't have a very good memory, Roger.
I'm just kidding, Roger.
Like when women continue to bear children, they forget what that other experience was like. But I've actually always enjoyed being on the show.
oh yeah, and I appreciate it. As a matter of fact, I believe Michael is one of the only ones that have cross platforms. And what I mean is not only Blog Talk Radio and now here in StreamYard, but you've been on the. Oh, yeah, there it is. I was about to say that. He called in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say he has been on Monday Night America. He was on. Actually, you've been on 4 different programs. The Monday Night America, which is kind of like the catch-all. You were on when we were doing the political debates, when we did that stuff.
Right.
And a lot of people didn't know it was you, which was hilarious, man. They did not. And that's what made it so cool, in that they didn't know you. They didn't know it was you until after. They're like, no way. But anyway, he's been on our political. He's been on Monday Night America. He's been on Sports Talk with the Guys. And now, I guess, indirectly, trekking across the universe. And he's called in, I know, once, maybe twice on Sports Talk with the Guys, but he has visited with us several times on Sports Talk with the Guys where he's left some comments.
Yeah.
And folks, you want a little bit of hero worship? if you could go back, the minute he leaves a comment, I'm like, oh, you know, it's like wow, because I do, folks. Michael talks about the roller coaster and how a novel works and how you bring the not the fan but the reader and you give them a ride. I know I'm paraphrasing, I'm butchering your wonderful story,
No, you're right.
but it's bringing them in is, I mean, there's nothing like it. And being able to have the ability to speak to the author that took us to these places and introduced us. And, like our jaws drop. And you know, it is the ultimate thing to be able to go on the adventure. But then, and forgive me, no shot at anyone, it's the ultimate thing to be able to speak to the creator of that story. And you can take that however you like. You know what I mean, Mike.
Yeah. Yes, and I appreciate that. You know, I don't know, who was I talking to the other day? It was somebody who was housebound, and they were saying that they've been to worlds upon worlds, and even though they never left their house because they can read, because they can experience those things as a reader, and go places that other people can't, because they're inclined and have the ability to read. So and I don't think that's just a kind of uh, something you say. I think that's legitimate. When you read, you can actually go places that people can't go otherwise.
Yeah.
Certainly,
And
when you read science fiction.
now, one question. This is a lame question. This is like, which is your favorite book? Which is your favorite child? Right? But you've done anthologies, you've done novels, and you've also done comic books. What is there a favorite one? I know it's a stupid question, Mike, but is there
In a medium, is there a favorite medium?
yeah, to do comics? I mean, I know you've mentioned the superhero aspect, and I don't know if Richard caught it, and we've had more people join the program. I don't want to repeat over and over, but I guess in a perfect world, what would you write more of if you could? If there is, or yeah, that's the most jumbled I've ever had one for you.
Well, I
I'm
know what
getting
you
old.
mean. It's very clear what you mean. I think, listen, I love doing comics. I've also written an episode of Star Trek Voyager, so there's
Yes.
that experience as well. And I've written short stories, and I think I think the one that's most exciting for me would be writing a novel. But everything else is very close as well. I think if you told me I could write only one thing, which after all, that was like pie in the sky at one time. It was like, wait, you mean I can write something? I can write something professionally? I'm there. I'm there. I don't care what it is, right? But I think if I could only write one thing, it would be a novel. And if I'd only done that one thing, I guess I'd have to be happy with that.
Do you
But
pick novels because it's less formatting?
I'm sorry.
Do you pick novels because it's less formatting, like all the things you have to do when you write a script with all the formatting you have to do after you write it? So, never mind. I just
No, no,
Well,
no,
I'll
no.
tell
It's a
you.
good
I'll tell
question.
you. Writing a script for a comic or a screen product, movie or TV, is much easier. In that, it's less it's less work. It's just less work.
yeah, I can get that because you just
Right.
yeah,
And,
it is.
I don't mean to say, I don't mean to trivialize it and say, well, it's easy. It's not easy at all, and it requires talent and it requires thought. but I think it's certainly easier in terms of your time that you spend to write a comic or a short story or a TV script than it is to write a novel. A novel takes a while.
Yeah,
You know,
because I can see that because I guess there's less you got to do with the script. Just I mean,
What
as
do you
far as
mean
just
takes a
detail.
while? 2 weeks, baby.
yeah, right. Well, that's what I mean. 2 weeks. 2 weeks is a while, right?
As a cheap shot.
Yeah, right. But fair enough. Um, but I'll I'll share with you. When the first time I my my screenwriting partner, who was Kevin Ryan at the time, the first time we pitched to the next generation, unsuccessfully as it happens, was to an intern. Was to a guy who had just joined the writing staff. He had been an intern. His name was Ron Braga, I think. Anyway, so
To
so
Brannon Braga?
so Brannon was talking to us, and yeah, we were pitching to Brannon. He was just fresh on the writing staff. He had just come off being an intern, and
Oh, wow.
and we didn't know who he was actually at the time, and he hadn't made his bones really in the show. But anyway, we were talking to him, and we were involved with the books, and when we told him that, he said, "Oh my God, are you lucky?" And we said, "What do you mean?" And you work on the TV show. He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "But if you want to blow something up, you just do it, right? Anytime you want." He goes, "If we want to blow something up around here, it's it's a budget item, and we can't always do it. We can't, Oh, wait, you want the shuttlecraft to move? No, I don't know. I don't think it's in the budget." So he was envious of us that we had that freedom in terms of writing. And also, I mean, I've had friends who write for TV say they would give anything to write a book. Um, there's something I think there's a certain legitimacy attached to writing a novel that some people think doesn't attach to a screen product. But of course, the other man's grass is always greener. If you're writing books, you want to write for TV. If you're writing for TV, you want to write a comic book, and so on and so on. And that's why you see writers from different places. Michael Straczynski couldn't wait to write a comic book. Even though he was immersed in the world of television writing. So, you know, it's the other man's grass is always greener.
Right.
Yeah, I guess I can see that. Just very quickly going back, I know there's quite a bit that we would like to talk to you on. And again, Richard, I thank you for joining us. I did want to touch. I know we got sidetracked real quick, but you had just begun to mention the other beyond the packages, the stretch goals. You have
Yeah,
several others, the 9,000, 95, or maybe I shouldn't mention the numbers. I'm sorry, but the numbers are
no,
here.
that's okay. That's okay. So what we're doing is we're adding, rather than adding signatures, which who knows, the kind of world we're going to be living in a year from now, 6 months from now, and so rather than get promising things I possibly can't deliver, I decided to offer things I can definitely deliver, like adding writers. We have some writers in mind. If we get to that point, and we can add their stories to the mix, giving the reader a better value, and also illustrations.
Yes.
We're bound to get a few illustrations um, through the get your face in the book reward, um, whereby it's the likeness of the backer, or somebody the backer designates, who is enshrined in a scene in the book, which is cool. Um, the and we've got some great likeness artists, so it's really striking. Um, the but at a certain level, we're going to add illustrations, just interior illustrations by some of my favorite artists who are chomping at the bit to get involved in the book, and those would not be dependent on the get your face in the book reward level. That would just be something that we include as a stretch goal. So that's something that I think people really like to see. I think it adds value to the book to have illustrations in there.
Oh, heck yeah. And, folks, I do want to apologize because now going over these, Michael did mention it early on, but, good old Raj had to be dumb and laser focused on some of that stuff. So I do apologize. It may sound like we're repeating ourselves now. So
No. I'm glad you're. No, I'm glad you're being on top of that. It's great. I appreciate it. I'm not. So I appreciate it.
But you did touch upon it generally, and now
Well,
we
yeah, generally, I was just talking about the signatures. I mean, you should have seen me, on the Connecticut Turnpike, uh, just on 95 in Connecticut, Stamford, where Paul lives. I was like the only one on the road, and I was trying to think, wait, can I get back into New York? Do I need a COVID test? What? I think I can, right? And schlepping boxes and boxes of books. I brought a ham truck so I could get them into Paul's building, and then we were masked, which is not a bad thing for us. Better than when we're masked, and have him sign a couple hundred books, and then schlep them back down to the car and make my way down 95 to Queens, where I would schlep them into Aaron Rosenberg's place, and then he would sign them, and then get Peter involved, and it was very laborious. So I'm not including. I'm going to try to include as many signatures as I can. Anyway, I'm just not going to promise it because in this case it's delayed the delivery of the first book. Although with the consent of the backers, I gave them a choice. I said I could send it out now as is, or I can, if you want to wait a few months, I can get them signed as I promised.
and I guess they waited, of course. Heck
I would
yeah.
say 99.9% of them said well.
Hey, I don't know about you, but those numbers round up.
Yeah,
So
right.
what did what's her face Phyllis Diller say in the Mad Monster Party? It's unanimous. It's unanimous. It's 100%. I remember. I don't know why. That's what I remember of the Mad Monster Party. Or the little claymation little thing that was on Saturday mornings. But yes, I definitely did it myself, folks. So it's all good. But ladies and gentlemen, we're well into this program right now. We are running on Michael's time because he is on the East Coast, so we want to keep up on that. But if you have any comments in the chat room or questions, please drop them by. I didn't give a shout out to Tony earlier. I did flash his answer when he was helping us out with the Aaron Paul character, which was cool.
Right.
Thank you for that, Tony. But we are talking to Michael Jan Friedman, New York Times bestselling author. He has written, well, I knew he'd written comic books. I had no idea he had written over 200 and over 70 novels. I'm sure he'll correct me if I'm wrong.
So it's actually over 80. Over 80.
Yeah, I imagine now. And I think the last time we were speaking, it was right before the Aztec book. I remember that's the one that we were talking about last time. So
Yeah. Right. The new Aztec book, I think.
Yeah,
Investigator for the Empire. Yeah, which unfortunately I've been. It's one of these projects. I can't let something out the door unless I'm thrilled with it, unless I think readers going to love this, and it just got more and more complex, and it's going to be a great read. If I say so for myself, but it took a lot longer than I thought it would. But yes, that was the project I'm talking about. And in that book, I've got some great illustrations by Sal Belluto. Sal was a artist that internationally, you would know him as one of the artists that does the Phantom. But domestically, mostly, he did a lot of great work for DC Comics. And part of that, where I met him, was we did a 3-issue arc together of Justice League Task Force, which was fantastic. He was just an amazing author, writer, artist, just an amazing artist. Very, very talented, classically trained. He learned at the University of Pisa. He's originally from Italy and lives in Utah now, which I don't know. I think, yeah, it's possible he's the only Italian in Utah. I think it's possible.
Yeah, that's one I'm not prepared to argue. That's pretty good. Now, I'm going to get Michael into a lot of trouble right now. He had nothing to do with this. I just did it right now because Roger's Roger, and because he can now call Michael by his first name, so he figures he can. In the Tuckerization, folks, option, Michael, both of yours are sold out, and Peter David only has one. I would figure that the reason why Peter David hasn't had both is because people know how Peter David can be. He can create your character and give him a brutal death, a hilarious death.
That's often what happens. But people like that. People like that. Peter's. You can rest assured, Peter's the Tuckerization that's open on his account won't stay open for long.
Oh no, it won't. That's why I'm just saying. At this moment, yours are.
And you can be Tuckerized by almost anybody on our we'll call it a staff, in a roster. Imagine being Tuckerized by Dan Hernandez, who was a movie writer, and Jeff Thorne, who's a wonderful writer who's prominent in television, and people we have some great writers. Yes. People who I admire are writing for us in this, and if I wasn't involved in the project, I'd probably get a Tuckerization myself. It's you can't walk into a bookstore and say, "Yeah, could I be in that story? Could you put my name, my face in that story?" But you can do it in a Kickstarter campaign. So we're happy to offer that. It's. I can't say this enough. We have great writers. We have some really great writers, and if only the editor was anywhere near as good as the writers.
Oh, stop it! Okay, yeah. I mean, even Richard was like, yeah, that was funny. New York Times bestseller. Yeah, what do I know? No, but you've always been very kind and very humble. I mean, hell, you're on with us. Come on. But
I like it here.
Well, and I thank you. And Mr. Sullivan, you are surrounded by Yankee fans, pal.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. He is an Indian, not a Guardian. He's an Indian.
Well, I kind of understand the Guardians thing. It was explained to me, and it's not just a general term. It refers specifically to some stone figures, right, on a particular bridge. So I get it. It's a typically Cleveland thing. I get that. I get it.
Yeah, they're on the Hope Bridge, and they don't know if it's Bob Hope or his dad who helped build it. So.
Oh really? Oh, it's a Hope family.
Yeah, because it's either they. So it's probably just named after the Hope family because, like I said, his dad did work on the bridge, and then well, of course, what Bob Hope did. So that's what it's called, and that's what the statues are on both ends, and it's supposed to represent traffic, the guardians of traffic, whatever that means. But then it has like all kinds of the Guardians, and then all kinds of transportation everywhere. So I get the name too, but I just don't like it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's sort of a superhero-ish name, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, they did have to make a deal with Marvel.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yep. Yep. I read it. They said they had.
Oh,
I don't know. I don't know. It didn't seem like it was a big deal, but I just didn't see it because it wasn't called Guardians of the Galaxy. It was just called Guardians. But
oh.
And
so
even,
so they had, but
Are you-
they said do something with Marvel, and then of course they had to take care of the roller derby team. So I don't know what that cost him in fees to get all that to go away. But
I can't imagine that Marvel owns the name Guardian.
hey, I read it on the internet, so it has to be true.
I mean, what about the Guardians? Oh, yeah, there you go. What about the Guardians in the Green Lantern mythos?
I thought of that too, but it didn't say anything about DC. I guess DC's lawyers missed it. So I don't know. I think I read it in the column by a sports writer here in Ohio, in Cleveland. So it didn't seem like it took much, but I guess they consulted to make sure they weren't going to get in trouble. They didn't want Disney suing them
Yeah, I can't.
because Disney would probably destroy them. But
Well,
it's
Disney
their legal muscle.
Disney is bigger than Cleveland. Let's face it. That's not a knock on Cleveland. That's just Disney's pretty big.
Yeah, but
Um,
anyway, that's what I read. Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but it's out there.
but yeah, Guardians.
But like I said, it didn't was I don't know how far does that go. Even if you named your team Guards, would that count too? Because it shortens Guardians, bound to Guards.
Yeah,
I mean, how far can this trademark go?
The security firms of the world would probably lose their stuff on that one.
Oh yeah, they get
There's
sued
always
by.
going to be some. I'm being sarcastic, but there's always someone offended. But
Yeah.
we'll leave that to the Twitterverse. We're not going to do that right here.
Yeah. Anyway, that's enough on that, I guess.
It's all good. I just had to throw that one in there. I'm sorry.
I know. No matter what you name your team, you're going to offend somebody. So.
Hey, look, I've mentioned, and I believe Michael knows something of this. I commented when the thing with the Redskins several years before. I said it's only a matter of time before they come after the Yankees.
The Yankees. I mean, but that's not a bad thing, right? To be a Yankee, especially if you live in New York.
Well, it would offend the South.
Yeah, it would offend the South. It would also offend south of the South
Yeah.
because of the derisiveness of being
Yeah.
It would offend Native Americans. If you really, I mean, it depends how far you want to go with Yankee.
Michael, look, they've gone after less.
And wouldn't it represent the patriarch and all that stuff? So
Yeah, look, I was stunned, and now we're going way off topic, and I apologize, but there was this
We always
character
do
here
that.
at Long Beach State. It was a prospector called Prospector Pete for Long Beach State. It was an engineering school here in California. A really good school, but anyway, they had to remove it because during the gold rush, on how the indigenous people were treated by the imagery of that character.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I don't know any better. I'm just like, that one blew my mind. But folks, it's not meant to be a commentary. What it is we are talking about real superheroes. We have one of them right here. We have another one that pretends to be. And we're talking about a great project right now.
I do pretend.
Phenomenons. Hey, I don't even bother to pretend. I know I'm not. Phenomenons. Season of Darkness. This is the second anthology. I was going to say book. I was going to say novel.
It is a book.
No.
It's a book.
It's still a book.
It's an anthology, and
go ahead, Richard.
I was going to say, are these books, are these stories finished, or are you still polishing them off?
the second volume, we have some plans, but we have not written the stories yet. We're going to wait and see, what the Kickstarter brings.
So you're waiting to see if you have the funding first.
Right.
Okay, I guess that's the way to do it. 'Cause I
Right.
was wondering how you're gonna, I guess it's a question to the Tucker thing, because if you're gonna, the story can't be written if to put the character, to put someone that makes the pledge in the book.
You could, and I have written
I
stories.
guess you could write just a fictitious name until someone takes the spot. Yeah, I guess you could do that.
Right, you could. It's a little trickier, but in this case, that's not what
Yeah.
we're. It's a good question. We haven't written these things yet, but the good news is it doesn't take that long. Once you say go, you've got 16 people writing in tandem, and everyone's only writing 4,000 to 5,000 words a piece. So theoretically, you could write this thing in a week because everybody's writing simultaneously. It's not sequential. Nobody has to write. Right. 2 weeks. Take your time. Do it in 2. It's not sequential, so nobody has to wait like a tag team for the guy before them. Although we did a stunt at Crazy 8 Press. We did a stunt that was interesting, which we may yet do again in some form. And when we started Crazy 8 Press, we wanted to do something different and attract attention. We were at a convention called Shore Leave, which I mentioned earlier. And what we did is on Friday night, we solicited the first line of a story. Give us the first line of a story, and then the audience voted on it, and we came up with a particular line. And then the following morning at 10 o'clock Saturday, I sat down in a little alcove, which packs my claustrophobia, and with a laptop in front of me, and a monitor facing out that was attached to the laptop. And I essentially wrote the first part of this story based on the opening line that I was given in Macy's window, as it were, right? So people walked by and they could see me in real time writing this story and erasing lines and adding others and correcting spelling and things and moving blocks of copy around and all the mechanics that went into writing it. And at the end of the hour, I got up and one of our other Crazy 8 writers sat down. And then at the end of that hour, another writer sat down. So we wrote this in sequence. There was no outline. We just wrote what we would sit down and look at what had been written before and take it from there.
Okay.
We were writing cliffhangers for each other and giving each other, impossible jumping on points, but it worked. And at the end of the weekend, we had a 10,000 word story.
Wow.
Called The Crimson Keep, and that became the centerpiece of an anthology on the Crimson Keep, which we wrote other stories about, and that's a crazy book. And in fact, if you go to the Crazy 8 website, crazy8press.com, you'll find the 60 or maybe 70 by now books that we've put out over the years. We have a huge inventory now of books that I've written and Peter's written and Aaron Rosenberg has written and Russell Chimero has written, et cetera, all 10 of us in Crazy 8. There you go. And we've also taken on occasionally outside projects, like Jim Beard did a book you can see on the top row, the purple book that was the Batman-like character. That's a Crazy 8 book that he did with us. Essays on the Batman Adam West TV series, season 3 in this case. I contributed to the one on season 2. So we do occasionally bring in writers who have interesting projects, who are not members of Crazy 8, but we like what they're doing and we'll publish their book.
Michael, I owe you an apology. I read the first one.
Mhm.
I did not. I'm switching to
First
Aslan.
Batman.
You have two more, and that's my fault. I
Oh,
didn't
me?
realize that.
No,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. It's not your fault, and it's deceiving. And let me tell you why. So this book that
Wow.
you're on right now, the Mashla Kalua movie mysteries, is a compilation of the other two.
Okay. Well, that's
So
still
the
okay.
first one and the Last Son are in the Mashla Kalua mystery.
Okay.
And the
Uh,
reason they're separate is because in ebook form they are separate. In trade paperback form, they're part of the same book.
okay. Gotcha. Here, speaking of what Michael was talking about, we have, I guess, the book that was right before season 2, which you mentioned, right?
Yeah, I contributed to that one. Right?
Yeah. The first one was purple. This one's red, and it's season 2, which is really cool. Biff Bam Yow. Sorry, I had
Yeah,
to.
yeah. No, and I'm glad you did. So
Thank you.
we have some great stuff, and we do
You
other
too.
anthologies. We'll be kickstarting a. If you go down a little bit to the last row, you see where it's thrilling adventure yarns. We're doing
Yes.
two of those, and we're going to do kickstart a third one in July. And those are fun. That's Bob Greenberger is a good friend of mine, and he's the editor of that series. And these are stories inspired by the pulps.
Uh, Michael,
Well,
we
we
would
would-
love to, we'd love to spend a little bit of time. We'd love to assist you in a small way in getting the word out as well. We would love to assist you in any way for those projects at any time, Michael. We
Okay,
are at your service for that, seriously. And
maybe
you
we'll
have,
get,
all kidding aside, you have a comic book maven right above me, below you. He
okay.
did a program on Blog Talk Radio for many years about comic books, so he speaks the tongue.
Oh, okay, good, good.
Actually, it was on YouTube.
Oh,
Okay,
I sorry.
Well, I'm just saying that it was a YouTube show. It lasted
There's
several
season
years.
one. Yeah.
yeah.
But
And
anyway,
The
oh, I'm sorry.
so the thrilling adventure yarns are based on the pulps, which Richard, I'm sure you're familiar with.
Yeah.
And there's there's superhero stories, there are science fiction stories, fantasy stories, mystery stories, romance stories.
Yeah.
That's
No.
that's a fun anthology as well.
Yeah, and I remember Fight the Gods. We talked about that book,
Right.
and that's not an interview I'm super proud of. I blew that interview with Michael.
Oh, is that right?
Michael doesn't even remember it. Thank
I didn't-
God.
I didn't-
It's all good.
well, but anyway,
Yeah, but we had you on for
I'm
that
glad you
one.
had me on. But anyway, Fight the Gods is it's a urban fantasy with its roots in Greek mythology, as you can tell from the
Yep.
cover. And there's a good chance I'll be continuing that series. There's one book right now, and I wrote it 12 years ago, 13 years ago,
Yeah.
and now I guess 12, and I'd like to continue that. The uh, it it was Zeno Aristos was the main character.
Yeah, Zeno, right? Zeno Ristos.
Yeah, yeah. Had just retired as a cop and was finding things out about himself that
Hey, look, there's Michael. There's
it's
Mikey.
me. It's
I'm
me.
sorry, I mean Michael.
It's me with more hair.
Oh, here we go. All right. Go ahead, Richard. Take your shot. But anyway, folks, that is the website. It's crazy with the number 8 press.com. I'll see if I can create a banner for it right now so we'll have it play in the background for a little bit. But
Mhm. Good.
this it's impressive. There's quite a bit of stuff here. There was another book here that we also had a chance to interview you on. I saw it.
There's
You know what? Actually, it might have been that one, Fight the Gods.
Fight the Gods.
And
Could have been. Could have been. I mean, there are some others. If you go,
Because I don't think we spoke to you about Pangea.
yeah, Pangea was a 3-book set,
Yeah.
and in some ways it was in terms of the kickstarting a shared world anthology. It was a predecessor to Phenomenon. Not in terms of the content. The content is different. Pangea is based on the idea that in this reality, the continents never separate,
Oh,
and
yes.
so the entire world was made up of a single continent, and of course things were different as a result. The Neanderthals survived, and there was there was not a lot of maritime travel because you could go from anywhere to anywhere else over the land. So there was a sort of an inner sea where there was a maritime travel, but no real ocean voyages, no round the world ocean voyages because you didn't have to. It's just a lot easier to travel by land. Even though it's a huge continent, it's uh, it's all one landmass. So a lot of things were different in that world, and some
The
horrible things going on.
right. The book that we're looking at is Pangea 3 Redemption,
Mhm.
not the first one. I apologize. Richard, go ahead. I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to ask who did the art for the cover.
Most of the art for my books is done by a guy named Caio Cacau, and he's a Brazilian artist, and he's brilliant. He
Yeah.
did that, and if you look at the eyes,
That's what I mean. That's what I was getting at. I mean, did he do the color? Did he color it too?
he did everything. He
I mean,
he
because
did
that's what I noticed first was how the eyes popped. I mean, that blue eyes just boom, they're right there.
Yeah, if you were to blow it up or have it a hard copy of it, you would see these eyes are, I don't know if you can tell from here, but they're 3 dimensional. Yeah, you sort of can. They're
Yeah,
three dimensional looking.
I can even. I mean, the thing is that you can, even though when it was the smaller size, you see them pop out. I mean,
Right.
and and with the bottom half of her face covered, it adds to the mystery, and the eyes draw you in. At least
Yeah.
for me, they do.
Yeah. Well, he's very good at that. He's just
Because I mean, that's why I asked you because of how the eyes just, like I said, and so that's why I asked.
yeah, yeah. No, it's a good observation. He's an incredible artist, and one of the things he does best is eyes. But he's also done great action. The graphic novel I showed you earlier, Empty Space, was drawn by Tyler.
Is that graphic novel here?
No, because it's
Oh,
not a Crazy Eight book.
oh that's right.
It was
Yeah.
uh, it was done through my own little publishing company, Newsworthy Corporation.
Oh, got it. Yes. This is a Pangea 2, The Rise of the
Yeah, yeah. We did
Domination.
we diverged. Coyote did that as well, but we diverged from the big face format, and probably shouldn't have. I think this is a
Oh, there's Pangea.
this is a person who's kind of borrows from both genders and a hermaphrodite, and it kind of I don't know, it was kind of interesting, but I think the big face format would have been better. I think the truth. You can see a lot of the contributors to Pangea are also in this book.
Help me out on this one. Isn't Lawrence M. Schoen famous for the Klingon dictionary?
Yes. No. Klingon, not the Klingon dictionary. He is
Oh,
famous.
no, I'm sorry. His website. The website.
Right. He is
Right.
famous.
Yeah. No. Mark Orkran. I apologize. I didn't mean that.
Right. Mark Oakland
Yes.
the Klingon dictionary, but you're right that Lawrence is associated with Klingon language and culture, and a leader in that community. And you're right about that. He's also a great guy, and one who I think will be contributing eventually again to my books, and will have a place in one of the one of the Phenomenon's books.
No, that is cool. That is really good stuff. I hadn't been to the website in a while, and it's my fault. But yeah, I know. I like I said, and thank you for making it clear on Aslan. I still did not get the second book. I have to get the second book because I did read the first one. I
Well,
did enjoy it.
right.
So I'm definitely going to get the second book. And Phenomenons, yeah, I'm in. Uh, yeah, I did not read your first book of Phenomenons. I know of it, but
Well, it's
I'm in.
for people who thank you, for people who didn't catch the first book. We offer the ebook and also a hard copy of the book as at one of the reward levels, so so they can catch up by ordering both.
Oh, that's right. You did have that. Yeah, I
Yep.
forget. Very good. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah,
All right.
because who wants to come in the middle, right? It's a new
Right.
thing, and already wait, I have to catch up already. So yes, it
But
is an option.
okay, but is a caveat there? Is this? Do you have to get the first book to know what's going on, or is it a standalone? Whoa, duh! Each story is a standalone. I didn't mean that,
Yeah,
but you know what I mean.
I recommend getting the first book.
Got it. Okay,
It's
there is enough there.
yeah. I mean you could read it just as is because there's superhero stories, but I think you get more out of it in general if you've read the first book. And there might be certain stories, like there is certainly like Jeff Thorne's story is sort of a two-parter, and the first part is in the first book. The second, you won't know what's going on in Jeff's story if you haven't read the first book.
And I believe that is, let's see, a trade paper. No, it's ebooks of both Phenomenon's anthologies. Folks, the pledge is minimum $16 or more for both ebooks. So there you are, exactly what Michael was talking about just a moment ago. And they already have 9 backers for that one, which is really cool. Actually, you do have quite a few backers for just starting out, right? You've only been on there.
Yeah, we're doing pretty well. You know what happens again? You have this explosion at the beginning, and we did have an explosion, and then things calm down. It's like it's almost painful how much they calm down after that, and then toward the end there's a big rush, and that's usually what puts you across the finish line. 2 days before your deadline, Kickstarter communicates to all the people who expressed interest in the project, hey, don't forget, if you do want to get involved, now's the time, because 2 days from now it'll be too late. So you get a big rush at the end as well. Yeah, I mean, I've been doing this enough to know that a lot of folks haven't chimed in yet. So I know we'll have a lot of support going forward, but still, there's no guarantee. Just really, there's always a first time for it to end and you fall short. It could happen.
Well, what is the print run on these? How many books do you hope to print out? Or is it all going to? Or is it all just be an ebook?
No. There's ebooks and there's physical books.
Okay.
We will print out hundreds. I'm not sure how many hundreds. That'll depend on the demand in terms of.
So it'll be less than 1,000.
Yeah. But the thing is, it's print on demand. You can always go back and order another.
Okay.
Few. Right. Yeah.
There's no downside to that.
Okay.
Well, as a matter of fact, the print on demand and what you mentioned early on, Michael, is how with the industry being the way it is now, the idea, the concept that you have, you're well known, your talent is acknowledged, but this kind of idea you mentioned earlier, especially about the film noir one, it's like, hey, it's a great idea, but it doesn't work anymore. Or no, I shouldn't say it doesn't work anymore, but for them,
it doesn't work
for that house, yes,
right. They don't see it go, generating 100,000 units in sales.
And it's difficult to
But we
argue
don't
with it.
have to. But we don't have to. We don't have to get anywhere near that to be making enough money to make it worthwhile.
Was it Amazon? Because I'm real ignorant when it comes to this.
Was it Amazon?
Was it Amazon that changed this, which allowed the self-publishing, or they had a hand in it?
Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com were the big players. You know what it was when I broke into publishing. Publishers controlled everything, and it wasn't necessarily a bad thing. They controlled they had the means of distribution, they had the means of production, and they had the money to give you an advance, right? And that's how it was. And in a way, it was. I didn't mind it at all because first of all, you got an advance, and second of all, you were assured of distribution and a certain quality of production, and you got expert editing, and there was a certain very satisfying level of validation. You knew if your book was being produced by Simon and Schuster or or Penguin or whatever, or Del Rey, you knew that it had to be good. Somebody thought it was good to pay you the money for it, and you don't get that as much now. It's harder. It's a lot harder to break into traditional publishing houses. It's harder. They pay less, and so there are the opportunities in traditional publishing are less than what they were. On the other hand, publishers are no longer exclusively have exclusive access to the means of production. They no longer have exclusive access to the means of distribution, right? The only thing they have is they can give you an advance and a little more of a reach. But if you're with a traditional publisher, they're paying you probably 6 or 8% of sales, right? In a $10 book, you're making 60, 70 cents per unit, something like that. We at Crazy 8, we're making 10 times that because there is no traditional publisher. We're just commissioning the printing of the book. And the other good thing is we give up no rights. When you have a book published by a traditional publisher, they're going to take a substantial portion of the rights if it becomes a movie or whatever, video game. In Crazy 8, we don't give up any rights. We have everything. So whatever happens with that, nothing right now. But if something does happen, you have all the rights. And eventually, if you want, you could probably sell it to a traditional publisher in many cases and realize that profit again. So,
I'm sorry, I was going to comment, and I may be beating Richard to this one. And Richard and I have spent some time about books and stuff. And Richard has something that I guess I've taken for granted. Okay, just let me shut up. Your editing, Michael, is phenomenal. Okay, not only when you were with the big firms, but now you're also with the big firm Crazy 8 Press. It's obvious that you're doing the editing, and you are self-editing your other authors as well. The quality is clear. The reality is, when you self-publish, if you don't have an editor, it gets demoralizing, or it is demoralizing. And Richard has commented to me about this. Is you start reading the book and you're interested, and then there's a spelling error. It's like, okay, fine, all right, you move on, and then there's another one, punctuation or whatever, and sometimes it doesn't matter how good the book is. If it's riddled with errors, you're done, and you can probably never make that up again. Richard?
It's hard.
I guess what I was talking. I'm sorry, Mike. Go ahead.
I'm just saying it's hard and it's a lot of work.
It is hard.
Well,
And the economics
my
that you can't, in many cases, you can't hire.
yeah, but my problem is Kindle, or the Kindle editions, and I don't know how that works. If you upload a file or Amazon does anything, but it's not just spelling and punctuation. There'll be a word missing or the wrong word. And when I read, those things just put the brakes on because I notice it and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I mean, who's making this mistake? And who missed it? I mean, I guess because since I paid money, there shouldn't be several. Or I mean, I can see a first print when you buy. Yeah, that's one of the things about a first print when you bought the hardcover, a paperback or a hardcover, a first print book back in the day. There would be a couple errors in this book.
Sure.
That it was a first print, but you expected it to be fixed if there was a second printing of the book. But
No.
I it's just that I don't know how the book gets to Amazon for the Kindle thing. I don't know if you just upload a PDF and they just plop it on their list, or if Amazon does things to it. I don't know. And it's not every book. I mean, it seems to be people that, do in-house, like small press or whatever. I mean, it seems like, and sometimes that's in the big press too, but not usually when you get one from, like, if you get one from one of the publishers. But I can't speak on anything. I just, for me, for the books I've read that from some authors, they're just, and there's times where paragraphs are switched around and you don't know.
Bad.
Or even the audio doesn't match the book sometimes. Like I said, they'll read one paragraph here, but actually it's over here on the next page. But it still makes sense. But anyway, don't worry about it. I'm glad you brought it up, Roger. But for me as a reader and knowing where things and what words and where things should go, it just puts on the brakes if it happens too much. And it's just, but never mind. I'm sure your books are perfect, Mike. I'm sure they're perfect, and we don't have to worry about your books. So everyone, contribute to Kickstarter for your perfect copy of Phenomenon.
Oh wait, now we're going to get him in trouble.
I know.
Not perfect. They are not perfect. I'll tell you. Yeah,
and if they're not perfect, it's my fault somehow. So blame me.
Here's an example. In one of my books, the foreword, right? I don't know how. I'm sure this was my fault somehow. Was spelled forward, like go forward. It was a terrible error, but it happens. It does happen. But you try not to have it happen in the text because it does kind of bring you up short.
Yeah,
well, especially if you're paying attention. I mean, I read. I don't skim. I read because there's details you miss. If I know that millennials like to skip around and it's like, or just skim and it's like, man, you're missing shit. And I'm, especially if you're reading a mystery. I mean, you're not going to figure it out skimming a paragraph or two because there could be a gem right in there, something. Maybe it's not. It could still be a red herring or not, but you don't know because you're skimming to, okay, where's the next explosion? But anyway, yeah. We're rambling off topic. I'm just saying that, it's Kindle. It's not, I don't really see them in, the physical book, which I still read, but I do get some Kindle because I don't want to, anyway, I'm just saying, I did bring it up to Roger once because we were talking about something, but anyway.
Yeah. And
I guess the thing is I sometimes, Amazon asks you how can we fix this? But I don't have 8 hours to spend editing a book. So I don't know how, I don't know if, I guess I wanted to ask the one author, can you go in and revise a Kindle edition after you've uploaded it to fix these errors? I guess that's what I want to know, because I've run into a lot of errors in this one author's book, which I'm not going to mention, but it just bothered me that there were so many. And I guess I was trying to ask, okay, if I said there's enough errors, can you fix that and re-upload it to Amazon? I guess that was one of my questions.
If if it turned out that I had a ton of errors, I could fix them, send it back to Amazon, and they could then offer the fixed copy. I don't know that they'd offer it to somebody who already bought it. I don't know how that would go.
Well, probably not. But I'm not saying one or two. I'm not even your books.
Right.
I'm just saying somebody else was like, you're reading this book, and well, it'd be better if you wouldn't screw things up and even use the wrong your. I mean, what really, you don't know the difference? Come on. But I just anyway.
Yeah,
I guess I'm too picky. Maybe I'm just too picky when I read. I don't know.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. You're right. I mean, if it's an error, it's an error. It happens, but you try to minimize it, and the author can fix it and then re-upload the manuscript. Can be done. There's not even a additional charge for that.
I mean,
there's
I don't
happen with Amazon about that. Sorry.
As I say, I don't. I can live with punctuation, but it's just not using the right word, or the words don't, or it's the wrong word at all, and it doesn't even, it comes out gibberish. And but I guess, like I said, I was talking to Roger about it, and I'm finished. That was going to be a question at one time. So
it's all good, and I'm glad we spoke about that very quickly. I just wanted to say that I do appreciate the quality of the stuff that you guys do. I never said it was perfect, but let me tell you, being a discriminating reader, I am, and I get to say that being the minority, I'm a discriminating reader. You guys can't say a word, but we all can. I'm being stupid. Anyway, I do appreciate it, and the work speaks for itself, Michael. And it is difficult. Look, we all make mistakes, man, and I don't want to beat that. That dead horse is dead. Let's let it go. But look, the work that you've done, I've appreciated. I've read many of your books, and I'm looking for. It was my fault. I missed one that I wanted to read, and I'm going to get that one, and I'm looking forward to that. But folks, let me tell you, there's another good project coming up. We talked about it early on in the program. Phenomenon's Season of Darkness. If it's anything like the first one, wow. I can't wait for this one. I know I'm going to read it this summer. Thank God I'm back to the land of the living. So I'm looking forward to it. There are a lot of options available to you. We spent the time going over them. There's a lot of cool, neat stuff. If you want to just contribute to the party, you can do that too. And there's lots of ways of getting thanks. And let me tell you, they're reasonable. I seen some Kickstarters and dude, what the hell? It's like, $500 for just to say hi. Whatever. They're just out of control sometimes. And it's not. It is beyond reasonable. It is really cool. And folks, Phenomenon's Season of Darkness. There's a link down at the bottom. Michael, I know it's late on the East Coast. You've given us a lot of time. What are some last thoughts and last words that you want to share with us about the project?
These projects are Crazy 8 projects, and these shared world anthologies in particular. It's not, when you support them, and I mean this, you're not just supporting a writer or writers. You're supporting the survival of science fiction and fantasy in book form. When we started Crazy 8, we knew that less and less it was less and less possible to rely on traditional publishers, less and less possible to rely on traditional retailers. And in fact, the Borders just went out of business about the time that we started Crazy 8.
Yeah.
So you can rely on these people, and they're, in some cases, the people who work for the publishers and retailers are wonderful people with great things in mind. But who knows if they'll be around forever? And you want science fiction and fantasy in book form to be around forever. And the best way to do that is to go direct, to go from author to reader and reader to author, and preserve that relationship, because that's where the magic is, right? So when you support a project like Phenomenon Season of Darkness, you're supporting the survival of science fiction and fantasy in a very real way.
Ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't get much better than that. Look, he's a New York Times bestseller. A lot of people in his group at Crazy 8 and in this project are very well known, accomplished, and there are a few rookies in there too that have done other stuff in other places. Check it out. Maybe we'll get a chance to have them on this program in the future to talk about it. And then maybe we can, once the project is out, we can actually discuss the book itself as we've done from time to time. But folks,
this will be an ongoing thing. Every year we're going to have a new volume.
Oh, well, there it is. Done. Okay, hopefully we can be involved. It's just a matter of working schedules because he is a busy man. I mean, he is the editor. He is the man. And it's really good. I look forward to it, folks. The link's there. Find him at michaeljanfriedman.net. The writer on the run. That's really good stuff.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate
Michael, as always, you are so gracious with your time to me and to us. And not only here, to all of your readers. You're one of those writers, Michael. You're very reachable. That's very kind of you. And I mean that not only that I get the chance to talk to you, but everyone else too. It's a thrill, Michael.
Thank you. My pleasure.
All right. Well, I think we got another like right now. Yeah, we did. George Hernandez. Thank you, everyone. So, folks, that's going to be it. We're running a little late now, and we're going to call it. He's Michael Jan Friedman. That's Richard Sullivan, otherwise known as Almighty. I'm Royer. This is Trekking Across the Universe.
It's good to meet you, Mike.
Yeah, good to meet you, Richard.
All right, folks, we are out of here.
All right,
Peace!